What's up, guys? Hunter Labrada here with another Tuesday tip. Today I wanted to go over how to actually do a crunch rate, or I say crunch, how to properly contract your abdominal. So, first let's start with a little tiny anatomy lesson, and it'll kind of, hopefully set some light bulbs off about what's wrong with the way you see a lot of people do crunches. And that is your abdominals. And we're going to talk about your abdominals today. We're not talking about your TVA. We're not talking about your intercostals. We're just going to be talking about abdominals. They originate at the crest of your pubic bone, and they insert right here at your xiphoid process and tie into the cartilage around your 5th and 7th ribs. So, if I turn sideways and you draw a line through me, what do you notice? It's like mid-thoracic spine. So, all of that action you see a lot of people doing when they do a crunch, if you'll see, there's very minimal abdominal contraction, and it's just using like your neck and everything to do it. So that's the first thing we want to keep in mind, is the muscle we're actually trying to contract originates here and inserts here. So we're trying to make the distance between this hand and this hand get as small as possible when we do the exercise. So let me show you how we'll set up to do it. And first and foremost, this exercise is enhanced by having a ab mat. They're super cheap. You can get them on like Amazon or something, but absolutely not necessary. What the ab mat does is it gives us a little bit more extension at the base of the exercise, so you get a little bit more range of motion. But like I said, absolutely not necessary. But what we want to do first and foremost is get a bench. By getting a bench, we're going to be able to allow our feet to be on the ground, and that's going to do two things. A, it's going to take out the ability to really use your hip flexors to initiate the crunch, and B, give us the ability to really drive our hips down into the bench. By driving our hips down into the bench, we stabilize the pelvis, and just by driving your hips down into the bench, you'll feel your abdominal wall activate, and it's really easy to, quote unquote, find your abs to initiate the exercise. So what we'll do is we will go with that roundabouts there, and what we want to do is get right here. We don't want your butt off the pad. You want to be far enough down to where you really can make contact with the bench fully, because like I said, we're going to initiate the movement by thinking about driving our hips down and into that bench and into that pad. So from here, like I said, all of this is not a function of your abs. Notice how this is not changing at all. Remember, we're getting this hand as close to that hand as possible. So to initiate, we're driving the hips down, and we're not thinking about going forward. We're actually thinking about going straight up. So from here, we are straight up, thinking about driving your hips down into the bench the whole time. If you don't drive your hips, it won't work. You won't get a good contraction. But from here, we're initiating by driving the hips down into the bench, and then we are reaching straight up as far as we can. If you can see here, the hands are as close as they're gonna get. They're way closer than they'd be if I went like that and just tried to crunch up. So, I'll do these for my ab days. I'll do these in conjunction with the next exercise that I'm about to show you. It's a 2-exercise combo that I feel really trains the abs, to the max. For this one, I hit 3 sets of, failure. I train my abs just like every other muscle, low volume, high intensity to absolute failure. Just so you have a roundabout reference point, my first set, I've never gotten more than 15 still. You saw how I was doing them though. It really is like I am like trying to perform like a squat or a bench press or something. Every rep is very intentional. It's not lackadaisical. And like I said, to absolute failure for 3 sets with that form we just described. So that's the first part of what I believe to be the best way to train your abs. Let's move on to the second part. All right, guys, so part 2 of what I do for abs / what I think is the best way to train them is a hanging leg raise. So based off that little anatomy lesson we had at the start of this video, hopefully at this point you can understand what we're trying to do is get, the origin as close to the insertion as possible. So what does that mean? It means the position of your legs from the hip down has really relatively little impact on what we're doing with our abs, but it has a lot of impact on the other musculature you get involved. If you have your legs completely pinned out straight, you're typically going to get a lot more like hip flexor and psoas and stuff involved than you would if you were just kind of letting them hang. So what I want you to think about is thinking about from that point of insertion down, just being like dead hanging weight, like it's not even there. All we're trying to do is lift that point of insertion up off of the back of the bench as close to the point, or as close to the insertion as possible. So what I like to do is get my back really driven in, and I'm thinking about actually driving my back into the pad with my hands up here. And I'm not letting my shoulders sink down like this. I'm really, taking a good posture. I'm getting my scapula down and back. I'm bracing. I'm keeping tight up top. And then, like I said, I'm thinking about bringing my pelvis off of that bench as hard as I can. I'm really not paying any attention in terms of, the angle of my legs. All I'm doing is thinking about driving my back in, initiating by pulling my hips up, feeling my abdominal wall contract, and then lifting my pelvis off the bench and trying to get that origin as close to the insertion as possible. Just like over there, I'll do this for 3 sets, to failure. The first set, just like over there, I think I've yet to get over 15. I think I typically get pinned out at like 13 or 14 right now. So, between the lying, I'm not going to call it a crunch, but, abdominal contraction and then the hanging leg raise, I think you really cover your bases in terms of training your actual abdominal muscles. You throw in some kind of, trunk rotation on the cable, which is, also great for your thoracic mobility and subsequently your posing and everything else in your life. And I think you have a pretty, complete abdominal program. That and, vacuums train the TVA. But today was about abdominals, and that's my take on how to train them. Hope y'all like this tip. I'll see y'all next Tuesday.